This is the August 17th, 2021 meeting of the City of Charleston Board of Zoning Appeals, zoning. Present are Mr. Morrison, Ms. Grass, Ms. Richards, Ms. Vargas, Mr. Bennett, and Mr. Robinson. Present from the planning staff are Mr. Batchelder, Ms. Ashby, and Mr. Valentine. These proceedings are being recorded, and we ask that those who speak identify themselves for the record. We'll conduct this meeting in usual fashion. We'll first receive information from city staff about the application and their recommendation. If the recommendation is favorable and no one objects to the application, usually the Board of Zoning Appeals treats the matter as being uncontested and passes it as a matter of course. If, however, the city recommends against the application, or there is opposition to the application, we treat the application as contested and hear from the applicant and anyone else who is in favor of the application. Next, we hear from anyone opposed, followed by a short rebuttal from the applicant. We then close the public hearing portion of the meeting for that particular application and open discussion to the Board of Zoning Appeals members only. We'll then make a decision to approve with conditions, or deny the application. The Board of Zoning Appeals zoning has the authority to do three things. First, to hear appeals to decisions of the zoning administrator. Second, to grant special exceptions, a fact-finding function of the board. And third, to grant variances to the zoning ordinance if the application meets the hardship test outlined in section 54-924 of the ordinance. The board may deliberate and make a final decision on a matter by a majority vote of members present at the hearing and qualified to vote, provided that not less than a quorum is present and qualified to vote. However, an affirmative vote of 2/3 of the board members present and voting shall be required before a use variance may be granted. For a variance to be granted, the Board of Zoning Appeals must make the following findings. A, that there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property. B, these conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. C, because of these conditions, the application of the ordinance to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. And D, the authorization of a variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property or to the public good, and the character of the district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance. We have one item that has been deferred on tonight's agenda. That's item B4106 Cooper Street. That case will not be heard tonight. The first item on the agenda is A1, review of the minutes of the August 3rd, 2021 board meeting. Copies of those minutes were sent to the board. Does any board member have a suggestion for any comments, conditions, or changes to the minutes as posted? Hearing none, Mr. Morrison moves for approval, seconded by Ms. Grass. All in favor signify by saying aye. Mr. Morrison?
I was not present, Mr. Robinson, at the last meeting, so I may not be the best person to make this motion.
Good point. Thank you very much. I'm sorry I missed that. Ms. Grass, may you make the motion for approval, seconded by Ms. Richards? All in favor signify by saying aye. Ms. Grass?
Aye.
Ms. Richards?
Aye.
Ms. Vargas?
Aye.
Mr. Bennett?
Aye.
Mr. Robinson votes aye. The motion is unanimously approved. Next item on the agenda is item B1, 826 Fifth Avenue, Maryville, Asheville. Request a special exception under section 54501 to allow construction of a single-family residence on a lot of insufficient size. Lot area 5,003 square feet, 6,000 square feet required. Request a variance from section 54301 to allow construction of a single-family residence with an 8-foot east side setback, an 8-foot west side setback, a 16-foot total side setback, 9 feet and 18 feet required, zoned SR2. Mr. Batchelder.
Thank you. This is a vacant lot in the Ashleyville, Maryville neighborhood in West Ashley. And it backs up to the West Ashley Greenway, as you can see on this location map. This zoning map shows that the property is zoned SR2, which is the same zoning for almost all of the properties in this section of the neighborhood. The houses typically are situated close to at least one side property line, as you can see on this map, which is fairly accurate. Sometimes they're not, but this is fairly accurate with regard to the building placements. The lot is a typical 50 by 100 foot lot, which is the general size of most of the lots in that neighborhood. There are exceptions, but this is very typical in terms of its size and dimensions. And it's vacant, as I mentioned, and so, but the 5,000 square feet, which is the 50 by 100 foot area, does not provide enough lot area to meet the minimum lot size. Therefore, the special exception to allow a single family home to be built on this lot is required. Obviously, you can see that there are many other homes in the immediate area on similar sized lots, so that don't meet the 6,000 square foot requirement. So we support that special exception. I think the opportunity to build on this lot should be approved. And the second one is the variance for the setbacks. Another view of the lot from the street. I think that tree on the right is gone. Now, this was a few years old, and that's where the driveway, I think, would go for the new house. So here's the site plan. And you see a driveway off of Fifth Avenue into a garage. This is a one-story house, and setbacks are 8 feet on each side, which doesn't quite meet the 9-foot requirement. And then the front setback isn't an issue because the house next door is closer to Fifth Avenue. So if you're wondering why it doesn't have to meet a 25-foot setback, that's the reason. The floor plan shows a 3-bedroom house, a little over 1,300 square feet. And like I said, it's a one-story house. And the applicant did present their proposal to the Maryville-Ashleyville Neighborhood Association. And this letter, this email that we received from Marcia Higgins, the president of that neighborhood association, indicates that they agreed to support this request. And so they're letting us know. And so our recommendation is for approval. We think that the variance requests are in line with the variance test, and the special exception should be approved.
The city recommends approval. Is there any opposition present?
No, Mr. Robinson.
No opposition present. Mr. Morrison moves for approval, seconded by Ms. Grass. All in favor signify by saying aye. Mr. Morrison?
Aye.
Ms. Grass?
Aye.
Ms. Richards?
Aye.
Ms. Vargas?
Aye.
Mr. Bennett?
Aye.
Mr. Robinson votes aye. The motion is unanimously approved. Item 2 is 80 Alexander Street, Ragsboro. Mr. Bennett will recuse from this item. Request variance from section 54-301 to allow a one-story addition, master bedroom, bath, closet with a 0.9 foot north side setback, 3 feet required, zone DR2F. Mr. Batchelor.
This lot is located on Alexander, just north of Calhoun Street. And actually, it's the lot that's highlighted here, plus that lot to the north, which have been combined into one lot. The maps haven't been updated to reflect that, but it's one lot with the 80 Alexander Street address. So going back a few years, this is the property that was involved in the recent development of the hotel that you see at the corner of Calhoun and East Bay Street. And this is an aerial view from prior to all that work beginning, but there was the Starbucks and the flagship office that had been a commercial use prior to that. On the corner, surface parking lot, and behind it were the old offices, old headquarters of Channel 5, and that had been converted into offices for the city's flagship. And the surface parking lot. As you can see here, 80 Alexander Street, the house was surrounded by a surface parking lot. This was a commercially zoned property, actually, and it was used as office space with parking around it on the south side, the rear, and the north side. And as part of the approval for the hotel, the developer agreed that they would rezone 80 Alexander and that lot to the north into a residential zoning category and would sell that for residential development. And the original idea, I think, was that 80 Alexander would be one residence in the lot to the north where the parking lot is in this photo would be developed for another residential property. And but what's happened, and here's the zoning map showing the rezoning from the general business zoning that it did have to the DR2F zoning today on those two lots, 80 and what is shown as 82 Alexander. But an owner has come along and they would like to purchase 80 Alexander, the historic home that sits on that property, and restore it to a residential use. And then they've acquired the lot to the north, combined those two lots together into one lot, and they would like to build an addition and have a garden space off of that, on that lot to the north of the main house. So the plans are as follows. These are more views of the historic residence today. Hasn't been used as a residence for many, many years. And this is the site plan showing the combined lots now into one lot and the historic home footprint. And this shows the proposed addition. So you see along Alexander Street on the right-hand side of the site plan is shaded in gray is the addition that extends into the north side setback on this lot, which is the setback lines are the red dashed lines that you see on the site plan. So it extends into that setback area, and that is the addition that requires the variance for the setbacks. The rear addition does not require any board approvals for that, and then you see the hardscaping that they're proposing to do in that remainder of that lot. The elevation is shown here. So I guess maybe there's a flood zone. I'm not sure what the reason for the elevation, except that it does match the main house. But it's a one-story addition and with a little hyphen. Of course, it'll have to go through the BAR process and receive their approval. The other thing you notice is that the roof on this proposed addition is sloped so that the runoff, the rain falling on that roof will run off to the street or into the backyard of what will become 80 Alexander Street. So that is the proposal, and there's no opposition to this request. This is doing what the neighborhood wanted to see done with this property, which is allowing it to be restored back to a residential use and or returned to a residential use and restored. And there'll be one less house, I guess, on that block as a result of these two lots being combined into one. So we recommend approval of this request. I think if you were going to build a separate house on this lot, just as an example, it would be a single house type home where the home would be situated along that north side property line, probably up against the property line or close to it. And there would be a driveway for parking situated on the south side of the lot, which would be roughly where the gate is that's shown on this addition in that hyphen. So the proposed location of this addition is really consistent with what we would expect to see with if this was going to be developed as a new home. So with that, I will conclude my remarks and just say that my recommendation is for approval of this request.
City recommends approval. There is no opposition.
No
Aye.
opposition.
Pardon me?
Oh, I just said no opposition.
Thank you, ma'am.
I just wanted to ask if we know if the immediate north neighbor has been directly contacted. I mean, we don't have a neighborhood association here.
Penny, do you have any information, or is
I have, I believe the applicant is here, but I can
Yeah.
share that adjacent property is up for sale.
Well, we can certainly allow Mr. Keys to speak. He is the architect and he's on. If you'd like us to do that, I can.
I'd be curious to know. I assume he has been contacted, but I'd just like to hear it. If we
I'm
don't
going
have,
to allow Mr. Keys to speak.
Yes. As was noted, the house is for sale. We've been in contact with the realtor.
Glenn, hold on
Yes.
a minute, Glenn. Would you please be sworn in?
Yes,
Glenn, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Please proceed.
We have actually already been to the BAR with the building when it met the setbacks. But then we decided we might as well, we're creating a space there that was just a place to no man's land, and really that 3 feet next to the adjacent property. It'd be, I think, better for the street to have that space filled. So we decided to go ahead and come back for a variance. We did reach out to the owners, sent them plans. When we went to BAR, we got no response. We sent them plans when we went to BZA, and we've gotten no response. So they've been contacted and notified, as have their realtor, but we have had no response from them.
I'm satisfied. Thank you.
Any other questions? Ms. Grass moves for approval, seconded by Ms. Richards. All in favor signify by saying aye. Mr. Morrison?
Aye.
Ms. Grass?
Aye.
Ms. Richards?
Aye.
Ms. Vargas?
Aye.
Mr. Bennett,
Y'all never let him.
he recused. I'm sorry, my mistake. Mr. Bennett recused. Mr. Robinson votes aye. The motion is unanimously approved. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda, invite Mr. Bennett back, please. Next item on the agenda is 1679 Pinckney Park Road, DuPont Station. Request a variance from section 54301 to allow construction of an 8-foot fence and gate to the rear property line, 6 feet limitation. Mr. Batchelder.
1679 Pinckney Park, residential property in West Ashley. Shown here on this location map, you see Pinckney Park Drive, the street that this home fronts on. I've highlighted in green the West Ashley Greenway. So this lot backs up to the Greenway, and shown here on the zoning map as STR, single and 2-family residential. And here's an aerial view of the property. And I circled the area where you'll see a significant change. So this was taken a few years ago. And you see the greenway, you see the paved path through the greenway. You also can make out, if you know what you're looking for, the SCE, actually Dominion, I should say, transmission line that runs along the side of the greenway that is adjacent to this home and the other homes on that side of the greenway. So you see all that vegetation in that circled area. Well, this is the view from February of this year. All of that vegetation was removed by Dominion. And so now there's no buffering, there's no visual buffer between the backyard of this home and the greenway. And another view is showing what that looks like today. Here are photos that the applicant submitted, and what you notice is, number one, their pool in their backyard. And then I think just above that, you see, you can make out the path, the paved path in the greenway. And you also notice that the greenway is elevated, that path is elevated above the yards. There's an old train track back there, and those were typically elevated. So that's the way the greenway is today. And there's really no screen between the backyard and the greenway. So you see I guess that's the homeowner standing on the path in the bottom photograph, looking into the backyard and standing at the back property line on the top photograph. So anyway, the point of the photos is to show that a 6-foot fence, which I guess is what that fence is that you do see partly there, or if it's a hedge maybe, but that's not tall enough to shield from view the backyard. And so this applicant, this homeowner, would like to build an 8-foot fence along that back property line, not the side property line, but just the back property line, which is shown here, highlighted with that red line. And so they'd like to have that as an 8-foot fence. The maximum height that we can approve is 6 feet. I think it's a condition that warrants a variance in light of these circumstances. So I recommend approval of this request.
City recommends approval. Ms. Ashby, is there any opposition?
No, sir.
Ms. Richards moves for approval, seconded by Ms. Vargas Vargas. All in favor signify by saying aye. Mr. Morrison.
Aye.
Mr. Grass.
Aye.
Ms. Richards. Ms. Richards.
Aye.
Ms. Vargas.
Aye.
Mr. Bennett.
Aye.
Mr. Robinson votes aye. The motion is unanimously approved. Next item, 4, 106 Pepper Street has been deferred. Next item, 5, 169 Congress Street, west side. Request a special exception under section 54-501 to allow construction of a single-family residence on a lot of insufficient size. Lot area, 3,896 square feet, 4,000 square feet required. Zone DR1F. Mr. Batchel.
169 Congress Street is a vacant lot in the west side neighborhood, slightly under the 4,000 square foot minimum lot size requirement. Here's a location map. So you'll notice right away that this lot is almost exactly like most of the other lots on Congress Street or Ray Street immediately to the south. And here's a zoning map showing it's vacant, which is unusual. Most of those lots all have homes on them. Here is the photograph of the lot. You see the driveway. And here's a site plan showing the proposed house. So they've come up with a house that meets the setback requirements, does not exceed the lot occupancy limitations, which are 50%. Right, 50%. And provides the 2 off-street parking spaces. So they meet all the zoning requirements to build a home on this lot, except that the lot doesn't quite meet the minimum lot size requirement. So we think this satisfies the special exception requirements, and we recommend approval of the construction of this home, which I'll just go through the plans. 2-story home shown here.
City recommends approval. Ms. Ashby, is there any opposition?
No, Mr. Robinson, no opposition.
And I should point out that this did go through the neighborhood association, and we do have this email from the president indicating that they voted to support this project.
Thank you. Ms. Vargas moves for approval, seconded by Mr. Bennett. All in favor signify by saying aye. Mr. Morrison.
Aye.
Ms. Grass.
Aye.
Ms. Richards.
Aye.
Ms. Vargas.
Aye.
Mr. Bennett.
Aye.
Mr. Robinson votes aye. The motion is unanimously approved. Next item on the agenda is 1981 Pittsburgh Avenue, a portion of tax map 466-00-00-048. Request a variance from section 54-207 to allow the expansion of a shipping container storage yard without the installation of a 25-foot landscape buffer along Pittsburgh Avenue, zoned heavy industrial. Mr. Batchel.
So this property is on Pittsburgh Avenue, which is on the north end of the city limits on the peninsula of Charleston. Property on the other side of Pittsburgh Avenue is outside the city of Charleston, but all the properties to the south are in the city. And this is a property that is zoned heavy industrial and has had a variety of industrial uses over the years. The zoning map shows that heavy industrial zoning on this property and the surrounding properties along Shipyard Creek. And this is the special exception requirements, or not special exception, conditional use requirements for shipping container storage that apply to heavy industrial. And I've highlighted subsection number 3, which is the section that they're asking for the variance from. They don't want to install the buffer along the street, which in this case would be Pittsburgh Avenue. If they did, they would not have to come to the board. I could just approve this, they meet the other conditions. So it's only that one condition they're asking for a variance from. So the site is shown here on the applicant's map. It's actually the highlighted area on this map actually did receive this variance 6 years ago. And it is a shipping container storage facility today without the buffer along Pittsburgh Avenue. The site that they're asking for the variance on is that L-shaped piece right next door, which I'm going to highlight in this view. So you see the existing shipping container storage facility right here, and there's no buffer up on Pittsburgh Avenue for that facility as we approved a few years ago. And then I've outlined in red the area where they would like to expand into. This existing facility would like to expand into that area that was formerly leased to a different company. And another view, this is the view of the existing container storage facility from Pittsburgh Avenue. And to the left is where the new facility would be located. And I think that's pretty much it. So Pittsburgh Avenue is a industrial area. And as you can tell on the north side, there's bin shipping container storage. I don't know that that's there today, but it's heavy industrial zone property. So these kinds of uses are allowed there. That's, I think, subject to the city of North Charleston. I think that's in the city of North Charleston. So our recommendation is for approval. We have recommended for approval for the existing facility to not have a buffer in this area because it is a very intensively used industrial area out of the way. And so we were consistent in recommending for approval on this piece as well.
City recommends approval. Ms. Ashby, is there any opposition?
No, Mr. Robinson.
Mr. Bennett moves for approval, seconded by Mr. Morrison. All in favor signify by saying aye. Mr. Morrison.
Aye.
Ms. Grass.
Can I ask a question just real quick? Sorry, I know I'm out of line. I'm going to say
Please.
aye, but I just had a question.
Sure.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
Are they removing the buffer that's existing? Is that what they're trying to do? Or they just don't want to, install the 25 feet? Like,
Well, I don't think it's so much that they're removing what's there. I think they would have to plant.
okay, that's good. That's
And
what,
they would have to put trees and shrubs in within that space, and it would have to be 25 feet wide. So,
right.
yeah.
That's what I assumed, but I just wanted to make sure when you showed us the photographs. Aye.
Ms. Richards.
Aye.
Ms. Vargas.
Aye.
Mr. Bennett.
Aye.
Mr. Robinson votes aye. The motion is unanimously approved. Thank you. The next item on the agenda, number 7, is 21 Savage Street, Charlestown. Request special exception under section 54-110 to allow a vertical extension, sunroom, to a non-conforming building footprint that does not meet the required 3-foot north side setback and 25-foot rear setback, zone DR1F. Mr. Batchelor.
This is a residential property on Savage, just south of Broad Street. Here is a zoning map. The building footprints are not accurately located on this map. The 21 Savage, the home sits right up on the north side property line. And that's typical of the homes on this street. They're typically located along the north side property line. Here's an aerial view, and so here's the street view of the existing home. And you see that this home has a side yard on the south side, the left side of this photograph, and then the home just to the north has its side yard on that left side of that house. Oops. So here's a view looking towards the back of that house. So it's a 2-story house in front. And then it's a 1-story section in the very back of that, the 21 Savage. And what they would like to do is build a 2nd story on top of the 1-story section. Here's another view looking from the very back of the house over that 1-story section towards the 2-story section. The site plan showing the house situated on that north side property line. And this is the existing 2nd floor demo. So you see the outline of the 1st floor, the 1-story section at the very back of the house. And another view, I don't know why I included that, but anyway. Oh, so here's the view that shows the addition. So you go back to this. I don't know, can you see my cursor?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's this area where the addition will be added. And I've outlined that with my yellow highlighter on this view. And that's the 2nd floor being added to the ground floor. And so existing elevations are shown here, existing front and side, and the proposed view is shown here. So when we received this application, we said, well, we've got to have the neighbors got to know what they think. And so the applicants did provide letters from all of the immediate neighbors. Here's the most affected neighbor to the north, indicating that they recommend that this should be approved. And neighbors to the north, south, 19 Savage. Again, same thing, recommending it be approved. 30 Savage, I guess that's across the street. And that's it. So all of the surrounding neighbors have indicated that they think this plan should be approved. Of course, it'll have to go through VAR as well, but for zoning purposes, we recommend approval of this request.
City recommends approval. Ms. Ashby, is there any opposition?
No, Mr. Robinson.
Mr. Morrison moves for approval, seconded by Ms. Grass. All in favor signify by saying aye. Mr. Morrison,
Aye.
Ms. Grass,
Aye.
Ms. Richards,
Aye.
Ms. Vargas,
Aye.
Mr. Bennett.
Aye.
Mr. Robinson votes aye. The motion is unanimously approved. And that concludes the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thanks. And the next meeting is September 7th. So we've got 3 weeks before the next meeting. Just to let you know.